Hey guys, Aaron here. So in today's video, we're going to be going over how to properly fill a crack in a plaster wall. Now the reality is it's not that difficult. You just need to make sure you follow all the steps. It really only takes a few hours and most of that time is going to be spent just waiting for it to dry. So let's go ahead and get started. Now as you can see, this is kind of a hairline crack. There's not a lot to it, so it's very small. So the first thing we really want to do is we just want to kind of open this up with a V shape. So we're going to point our blade in and then point our blade in there and kind of open that up so that when we put the filler in there, it'll stay, and we can actually push it down in there and make it smooth. But we want to open this up a little bit. Now, as you see, you're going to pull stuff off, but that's not a big deal. You fill that in, just kind of clean that up. And it's not like drywall. It will kind of just crumble. So you want to be careful with that too. Then I like to take my sanding block, just kind of clean up any excess here, smooth it out. Now, the next thing we want to do here is we just want to take some water here and push that into the crack here. I'm trying to get some moisture in there so that when we put the filler in, it doesn't suck all the moisture out of the filler. So we want to get this nice and wet inside there. If you got a spray bottle, that works, or a paintbrush. Get some moisture in there, get that wet. If it drifts, that's okay. This is not the best brush for it, but this is what I got. Paintbrush might work better. Again, just kind of wipe it out, clean it out, get some moisture in there. Now to fill this, I'm going to use some plaster of Paris. Now you can definitely use some 20, 30-minute mud. You really just don't want the pre-made stuff. You want something that's not going to shrink up. So your general purpose mud will usually shrink. So it's better to use something, like I said, that's some kind of a filler that's not going to shrink on you when it dries. But it's, like I said, it's pretty easy to do. We'll go ahead and put some in a cup and mix this up. It shouldn't take a lot. So I just have a little red cup here, but let's go ahead and get that going. Now this does come in powder form, so we're going to have to mix it ourselves. But a lot of times, like I said, that your general purpose stuff that you buy that's pre-mixed, a lot of times will shrink. So if you can find the powder stuff, whether that's filler, whether it's quick set or something like that, but something that's not going to shrink. Now the consistency really isn't terrible, but I want it a little bit thicker, so I'm going to add a little bit more. Just a little bit more water. Now that's about the consistency I'm looking for. It's kind of a paste. I can really push it back into that crack and then it won't dry out on me or crack. So let's go ahead and get that on there. Now when we do this, we really want to get this pushed back in there as much as we possibly can. So you want a small knife, you can find a filler knife, fill that up. Go ahead and kind of push it back in there as much as you possibly can. Now in the corner, you could tape this. You don't necessarily have to, depends on how bad it is. But you could tape it if you wanted to. I'm not going to tape it here, but you could take some paper tape, corner tape, and kind of run that along there. And that would kind of help hold that a little bit better. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. And then I would suggest just as you do it, wipe off as much excess as you can. It'll save you from having to sand a bunch off later. But this stuff will dry up pretty quickly. So that again is where if you get dry spots in the plaster that start breaking off, it's just going to dry this out even more. And that's why we need to spray, make sure we spray our crack first. Otherwise, again, it will dry out whatever you're working with very quickly. Oh, we'll give this a half hour or so. We'll come back and sand it, and I'll show you what we can do, what we need to do after that. All right, so now that our plaster is dry, we're just going to take our sanding sponge and sand this down. And we're just going to take some primer here. And again, it's important we prime this because that primer is going to help create that seal. It's going to allow us to paint over the top of this. So we want to make sure we prime. Otherwise, again, any plaster of Paris or mud, anything like that, is just going to suck up the moisture from the paint, and you're going to end up doing multiple coats. So priming is extremely important in this process. Now, again, a lot of people do tape on the corners, and you can definitely do that. If that's something you think would be better, please let me know in the comment section below. But I chose not to do tape. I'm interested to see if it cracks or not, but it should work, but we will see. Now, after you sand this and fill this with plaster of Paris, if you want to, or would just fill, you come back with paper tape and get the ceiling here, the corner, but I don't think I need to on this one. It's not that big a deal. So I just went with plaster of Paris, but you could do corner paper tape after you fill this and then just come back, mud it, prime it, and then paint it. But now once this primer is dry, I'm just going to come back and put a coat of paint on it. I can texture it if I need to, but this wall has not a lot of texture on it. So I'm just going to put a coat of paint on it and it should be done. So that's really all there is to it. Like I said, not too hard.